since I'm pregnant, I had to go to the restroom, so I really did go to the restroom. And the one restroom that's handicapped, that has a place where you can hold yourself, it was locked, but there was nobody in there. So it was like, hey, wait a minute, you know, sometimes that happens. Yeah. So maybe you can check.
Men's bathroom over here. I went in and I opened the door, I walked in and I immediately tripped because there's a slight elevation when you walk in, and I thought, oops. So I don't know if other people talk about that. I mean, it wasn't a big thing, but I kind of just assumed it was going to be, again, you assume, like feng shui, you assume it's going to stay level.
Right. This is the public men's room?
Yes.
Yeah, right over here. I walked in. There's just a slight, it's just a really, it's just
also the lighting because you can't see. If you look down, it's not noticeable.
And also in the cafe, I thought it's for the 80-year-old person, it's too dark.
It was dark. And it's not.
To give comfort to enter into it and not feel you're going to trip or something.
And I was looking for a handheld menu of choices because it's visually cacophonous, the boards and different lists of things I can order there.
I think people like multi-sensory things anyway. Like when you travel to Greece, you smell things and you taste things. And when you leave out some of those senses, no taste, no smell, no tactile, it becomes more like reading. Reading is just intellectual, so maybe some museums are mostly intellectual without all that other.
I think that hierarchy of information that you're suggesting here can be really helpful to many of us in our personas, and even the parent that you just mentioned, because then if she is challenged by reading, she doesn't have to scan a whole paragraph to cull out the heart of that for her kids and to be able to be seen as knowledgeable by them. But if there's, a headache, and maybe it's a sentence, but it's the big idea, as Beverly calls it. And then maybe there's a second tier of information for those people who want to take the time to read 150 words. And then for those who really want detail, maybe that's smaller. Or in some cases, I've seen that on a printed piece that you pick up out of a little pocket.
Yes.
And then it doesn't take up that space on the wall.
The children are encouraged to touch everything. Everything is within their world.
So you're dealing with parenting culture and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's a fair question.
That's interesting because a museum had things out, some of them were touchable, so they had a little sign that said, please touch. But people are so used to not being allowed to touch that they interpreted it as please don't touch. So they had to switch to okay to touch. And that was interpreted correctly.
And when I asked about a stool I could carry around with me, a little portable stool, they said no, but I could have a wheelchair. And I knew that my character, this is common, this is not this museum, this is the most common response. And I knew there's no way my character, who's not that old but has Lyme disease, would want to see herself in a wheelchair, or worse, dread. So either having portable seats, sometimes little folding ones, which are very unobtrusive. And the lovely thing about those is they don't mark you as disabled, because some people like them because they want to study more deeply. Art students love them. So we could just mark you as I'm really deep. Serious.
I noticed some things, though, the second time that I didn't notice the first time. Because the first time, especially without my glasses, I had been so focused on trying to orient myself and figure it out that I didn't notice some of the really important elements that I did the second time around.
My positive was, I think when I walk into a space, whether pregnant or not, I immediately size it up, and it has to do with a subconscious reaction, maybe the feng shui or whatever the word is. You just kind of like, do I feel comfortable here? Do I like it? You just make that, and you don't know why you're doing it. I felt instantly comfortable. Welcoming, lighting, space, all those things just kind of mixed up in my head. Okay, I can do this. Whereas sometimes you kind of take it aback and you don't know why.
I thought it was pretty hard. I was writing the comments down as after our discussion and everything. I was able to put myself in the persona and write comments, positive and minus, but coming up with a number and trying to sit there and think, okay, I'm this 65-year-old woman with low vision and arthritis, and how did I really feel about this? And then I maybe started overthinking. I started thinking, well, I came to this exhibit. I mean, I chose to spend my time here, so I must like photography. So, I mean, how much am I willing to put up with to see this exhibit, which I chose to come with? So, I may have been overthinking it, but it was tough.
I felt torn between two ratings. My first inclination was just to rate it how I felt about it, not as a pregnant woman. And then I remembered, oh, wait, I have to think of myself as a pregnant woman. I would rate it differently, so I was torn. And I thought maybe you could have two ratings. How do you rate this as who you are? And then you can kind of divide those two people that you are.
Now, we're all assuming that we all chose to come. I'm not assuming that I chose to come. I'm assuming I was brought.
So you probably don't dress anymore.
Interesting.
Well, there are a couple things that relate really closely to that. So how the Deering is written about attitudes towards visitors, visitors as strangers, visitors as guests, and visitors as clients. And visitors as clients is when you consider what their needs are. Visitors as guests is when you consider what you think is good for them.